Hi, this is Megan, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this single page layout. We're going to be using the jumbo circle. We're going to have some binder clips. We've got a border punch, some pieces of paper here, and I'm going to show you how to put this all together. It is a fun layout. You can use any theme you want. I've got a fall theme going on here. I've got the Totally Tonals Autumn papers that I've used to create this. And I've used the Autumn Leaves border punch, which I have punched in the round as part of this layout. So we are going to need 3 pieces of paper, and you can see that I've got those here. I'm using 1 sheet of each of the colors included in that Totally Tonal Autumn pack. I've got the orange knit paper. On the back side is the kind of the water droplets. We've also got the green tonal. The back side of that is the acorns. And then we're going to use the wood grain paper here as well. You're going to need your jumbo circle for this. We're going to use that on 2 of the different pieces of paper. You're going to want to have a border punch. I will be using the autumn leaves, and I'll be showing you how to punch in the round with the autumn leaves. It's a similar technique to the other blue and white border punches. This one, though, because of the nature of the design, we make 1 slight adjustment, and I'll detail that adjustment when we go ahead and punch that out. You're also going to want to have some binder clips. We're going to be using the binder clips with our jumbo circle. We've done that technique before as part of the staycation dinner plate. So it's going to be something similar, just a little bit different, but similar. So you'll need 2 of the binder clips for that. I've got my red and my green blades for my custom cutting system. A pair of scissors. We're going to need to do a little bit of fussy cutting once we punch that leaves in the round. And I've got a pencil. And when I am marking my paper to cut with the autumn leaves in the round, I'm actually going to be marking on the back side of the green tonal paper, which is this acorn paper. It's a little busy. It's a little dark. My pencil lines aren't going to show up really well. So since I'm on the back side, I'm going to be using the gold shimmer journal pen to be able to do that there. So that'll help me see those papers, to see the lines a little bit better. So a pencil may work for you. If you need something, you can try the white chalking pen, something that's going to let you see those lines, the marks, so you know where to punch. All right, so to get started, I'm going to show you, we're going to start actually with the wood paper. We're going to make this kind of this center folded circle piece. So I'm going to put my sample aside. And I'm going to put aside the 2 other pieces, the green and the orange paper. I don't need those right now. I'll get those back in just a few minutes. I've got my 13 by 13 mat here. I've got my jumbo circle, and I'm going to line up my paper here on my cutting mat. And I've marked my template. I've got this all marked so I know where to line things up. I want to center. Part of the reasons I want to center this is because I want to make sure that I have this, the round tree ring. I actually am not sure that this is necessarily tree rings, but you kind of get the gist. I want to stick with a circular pattern. I want it to be centered. I'm also going to be using the corners of this piece of paper as part of the design. So I want to make sure that my what I cut away, that piece, is going to be even as possible in all those corners. So I'm going to line this up. I do have a video that explains how to find the manufacturing dots that will help you line things up and use the different colored Sharpies. So I will make sure to get that linked in the video description so you know. And I think I've got it pretty good. And I am going to be using the red blade on the outside track. Right now we're just focused on the outside track. So the red blade and the outside track. All right, the red blade, outside track. We're going to go all the way around. Once I'm done with this red blade, I'm going to leave my template in place. I do not want to move my template, but I am going to pull away the outside edge. I'm going to put this aside. I am going to be cutting this, so don't put it too far away. Don't let it get wrinkled and fold it up. The next thing I need to do here is now I need to use my binder clips. I'm going to grab my binder clips, and I'm going to clip in the 12 o'clock, and I'm going to clip over here in the 3 o'clock position, And I'm going to use my red blade to cut between those two pieces. So I'm going to be cutting from the 12 over here to the 3. I am not going to be aggressively moving from side to side because I will have a tendency to move those binder clips, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to make sure I'm lined up here, and I'm going to cut from binder clip to binder clip. Now what I'm going to do is I will move my 12 o'clock binder clip down to 6 o'clock. And now I will go ahead and I'm going to trim from 3 to 6. And I just keep working my way around to make a total of 4 cuts. And I'm putting my binder clip right on that inside lip of my cutting circle. And I just keep working around. Come back up here to the 12 o'clock position and do 1 final cut. So I have a total of 4 cuts. Now, the other thing I want to do, I'm going to remove my binder clips. At this point, I'm removing my binder clips. I'm going to remove my red blade. I'm going to grab my pencil, and I want to mark at 6 inches, the halfway point all the way around. All right, so I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to put a pencil line. This is going to become apparent why I need this in just a minute. It's part of our folding, just a light pencil mark. I'm going to erase this pencil mark later. Okay, so there we have it. I've got my pencil marks. I've made my cuts. I can remove my template. Doesn't need to go too far. We're going to use it again. But now what I want to do is I'm going to fold at my pencil marks. I'm not coming all the way in. I'm not coming like this to the edge of where my cut lines are. I'm relying on my pencil marks. So I'm going to start my fold here and come over here to my pencil mark and continue my fold there. All right, so it's not a full piece. You can see here, if I were to pull it forward, I can still see more of where I've cut. I don't need that. The binder clips give us that reference point to make this clip, but I don't need to. The way we fold it, it's just the binder clip size I had. I probably could have used a wider binder clip. I don't need to cut quite as far, but these pencil marks tell me where I need to make my folds. And I'm going to continue that fold all the way around. What I'm searching for, what I'm really wanting is I'm wanting to have a corner at the 6-inch mark. That's really what I'm trying to get that corner effect. So you can see it's starting to take shape, right? There's my 6, there's my 6, and here's my 6. So you can see how those are starting to take shape. And I will continue on all the sides. It's not perfect. We're just trying for pretty close. If you need to practice this on another piece, a scrap piece of white paper, that is perfectly all right. You may want to practice this. So a piece of scrap cardstock or whatever that you have. The designer paper is going to be a little bit easier to fold. So if you have just like the cover sheet, the lighter weight cover sheets that Creative Memories is using now for our paper packs might be a good one to practice with. The lighter weight will be easier to fold. All right, so there, it has taken shape. That is the look we are going for right now. So if you want to, you could tack those pieces into place. You can, depending on your how you've done this, you may need to come in here and erase, and do a light erasing in my corners to get rid of those pencil marks. But it's good to go. I think I am going to use a little bit of adhesive and tack these down because I do not want it. As I'm trying to show you the assembly later of things, it'll just be easier if these flaps are not flapping all over the place. You might want to wait because maybe part of your design is going to be you're going to tuck some photos or other elements in here. I'm going to be just mimicking the sample that I made for you or already made. So I'm not worried about tucking. So there, now just as I handle it, it's one piece. Those flaps aren't going to move around. So that's one element. The next element we're going to be creating is the, we're going to go ahead and cut our corners. So right here we have our, the outside pieces that we cut, and we're going to grab our trimmer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting this at 1/2 inch. So if you want to go ahead to cut these into 4 separate pieces, you can. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to open up my trimmer and cut it at 6 inches. All right, so I'm going to cut these corners into 4 pieces. So you can see I'm cutting those to 6 inches. I'm getting those 4 corner pieces. Now, the next step after this, I will be cutting each of these corner pieces at 1/2 inch. I'm going to cut off 1/2 inch from each corner. So I'm cutting off 1/2 inch from each side of the corner. And that's going to give me these smaller triangle pieces that have that rounded edge that'll work really nice in my layout to kind of give it a little bit of a framing effect. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just doing this to each one, 1/2 inch off of the 2 straight sides. I'm not cutting the rounded side, I'm cutting the straight side. I could have cut the 1/2 inch off before I cut the pieces into 6 inch, or cut the pieces into the 4ths. That is an option. Then you would have some longer 12-inch strips that are about 1/2 inch wide. I think this is easier than trying to cut that, the circle piece, the remnant. It can be a little bit unwieldy when you're trying to cut all those pieces. So this is an option. If you're trying it, you make it a second time, you can probably go ahead and try just cutting that full. You can get those longer strips, but this works out okay. So these are 1/2 inch off of the 2 straight sides. So that you will be left with these corner pieces that we will use in the layout. You can see how those corner pieces are going to work. All right, so those are going to get set aside. I'm going to put those with my circle piece here. Next up, I'm going to be cutting out the autumn leaves circle. So I want the green side to be the side that is up, so I'm going to work from the back, which is going to be my acorns. I'm going to line this up on my cutting mat again, grab my circle custom cutting system, the jumbo circle, line this up. This one I'm lining, I don't have plans for my remnants of the green pieces. I'll have some out of the middle, I'll have some out of the corners. I don't necessarily need to use the remnant for a layout, but I always like to center my circle. There are obviously projects that could be done with the remnant pieces. So I'm going to always try to center my circle. Now, for this particular one, normally when we work with the blue and white border punches, we go ahead and use the red blade on the outside track, and that gives us our starting point. However, because of the size of this, the way the leaves are placed within our cutting area, I found it to be a little bit better if we go ahead and go a little bigger. We're going to go ahead and use the green blade, give ourselves a little bit of a bigger circle to work with that lets us get, the problem is this area right here. This lower corner of that leaf has a tendency to get kind of cut off if you don't watch it as we're trying to make that curve. It was a similar thing when we had the Mary Blooms Border Maker cartridge. The green blade for Mary Blooms works better. It works better here for the autumn leaves. So I'm going to be using the green blade on the outside track. All right, the green blade on the outside track for the Autumn Leaves Border Maker cartridge, or excuse me, border punch. Make sure I'm in my groove, my outside track good, and circle all the way around. I can remove my blade and my exterior piece. I'm going to leave my cutting circle in place. And here's where I need to mark every 30 degrees. So that is the key with the border punches, the blue and white non-frame style border punches. It's every 30 degrees. So we'll just put that on there. Every 30 degrees is what we're going to mark. Every 30 degrees is every clock hour, I think. Yes, so you're going to have a total of 12 marks on here. So we'll start at noon, and I'm using the thin, I'm going to use the my silver or my gold pen because I need to be able to see the markings. The pencil doesn't show up well at all on the pine cone, or excuse me, the acorn. So I'm using the gold pen here, and I'm going to come around and I can see on my mat. Remember, I have marked my jumbo circle, so I know where those marks are, and I just have to move my cutting mat a little bit here so I can see where those marks are. Since I've got the video going, it's a little bit hard for me to get my head without getting my head, top of my head in the video. And one more. All right. You're not going to be able to see them on camera, but I can see them, and that's the important part. All right. So the other thing we want to do, it's always a good idea with your punches here, is we want to mark the middle. We want to find the center. Sometimes you'll be able to just find a visual spot on here that you'll know that you're going to line it up that way every time. You can also take your ruler and find the middle. And looks here, it's roughly, you know, I just use my pencil. You can use a Sharpie, come in there and mark the middle. The white to white opening is slightly over 2.5 inches, just slightly, like maybe 2 9/16. So if I go just slightly to just to the right, this is my 0 point. Here's my just like 2 9/16. So if I go just past 1 1/4 inch, that's going to be about my middle. And I can mark the bottom if I want, see where it's coming out. And in this particular case, it's about the middle is actually where this leaf, the tip of that leaf is roughly the middle. So it's going to come in to where you can see this little bit of an indentation at the top of that leaf down through this part. But I only have a small line that I'm going to see on my my paper here. If I drew a longer line, I could see that coming all the way down. But when I did my test, I was able to just match up my gold mark at my line here, and it worked fine. So I'm going to slide my paper in, line up my pencil mark, or whatever mark you've used there. Mine's that gold pen. I'm going to do a slight closure so I can show you guys. I am worried about keeping it even. So it's the same technique. I want to keep my curve even. I don't want to have it tilted one way or the other. And I'll go ahead and punch. Now I can tell you, you've got to be careful. These leaves like to get caught up. Like I'm having a little bit of a challenge to get this rotated. These leaves like to get caught in the grooves there. This little stem, there's lots of little points. I'm going to rotate it around. I'm going to find my next mark. Remember, this is about, I'm going to have 12 of these. It's every clock hour. So there's 12 of them. There's my pen, my gold mark. Probably should have used silver. lining it up. And I'm checking over here in the corner. I'm going to tilt it a little bit. This one's a little tricky. I'm going to have to do some fussy cutting, trying to get that leaf to cooperate. And I'm just going to keep working around. So I have 12 of these to do. So I'm going to keep, you might take a little longer than me. I'm pretty confident in my technique. I'm also probably going a little faster than maybe I normally would have, just for the sake of this video. So if you need to pause the video while you're making all your punches, you could definitely do that. About halfway done. We will have some fussy cutting to do. It's not much, it's not too hard. Oh, I'm caught in my, one of my little stems is caught. There it is. If you need to, you can grab your multi-purpose tool. You can even use a pair of scissors to just kind of wedge it out. It is easy to untangle, but it's also very easy to tangle in there. The other punch that would work well for this, especially if you are doing the fall, is you could use the new leafy vine, would work as well. If you're going to do leafy vine, I think you could just use the red blade on the outside track. I don't think you need to go out to scale it out to the blue or to the green. I think you could stay with the blue, with the red. If you use a Boardermaker cartridge, it's a little bit different spacing. You'll need to use the blue blade in the outside track. Boardermaker cartridges, you will mark every 45 degrees, punch at those marks, and then you go back and punch in between. That's the technique to do for the Boardermaker cartridges. Simple Leaf is always gorgeous. There's a retired one. I almost used Simple Leaf, but I figured I need to use these new bunches. I love Simple Leaf. It punches incredibly well in the round. The other thing to note here is I am using the chain style punches where that punches completely away. You could use a one that stays attached, but then it's going to just change the look of the final layout just a little bit. But there you go. You can see the leaves. Now you can see the wedges I've got in place there too. I need to cut those wedges. So that's where I'm going to use my scissors and just go around and just, it's not going to be perfect. You're just going to give it kind of a wavy little cut. The leaf isn't as perfect as it should be. It's a little bit because of the way we have to do the tilt it for the round. It may look a little funny, but it's okay. The overall effect is you can still tell that these are leaves. The maple leaf and the other leaf maintain a good leaf shape. So by default, our minds will think that this leaf is just fine. It's not too hard of a fussy cut. Just come in there, give it a couple of squiggly motions, and you'll be all set. Just a couple, I think I have just two more, this one and one more, and I'll be done. All right. So we are all through the most intensive parts of this layout. The rest of it is all about assembly. So I'm going to come down here and I have my orange background paper. So that's my next piece. This is going to fit on here like such. Now, one thing I want to do, a couple things I want to do. I am going to be covering up the center of this with my circle. So what I'm going to do though is I want some of this orange paper. I'm going to show you here my sample again. I punched a leaf. The maple leaf is a retired punch, but you may have other punches you can work with, the spring leaf, the 5-leaf punch. I punched it. I had to use orange. I think I used some cider cardstock, or maybe it was the burnt orange cardstock. I don't know. I used a kind of a dark pumpkin cardstock. If I did that because I already assembled everything. What I'm going to do so that I can not have to pull out from cardstock, you may not have. You've got this beautiful orange color here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab just my custom cutting system. This is the largest circle, so circle number 3. And I'm going to go back, I'm going to grab my red blade, and all I'm going to do is cut out the middle. I mean, you could cut as big of a piece as you want. If I look at this, I can easily cut a pretty large one. I'm going to go ahead and cut with the red blade all the way around. I've loosely got it centered there, I can see. And this is going to give me some of the orange paper to punch with. Or I could save it and use that pretty, I really like the ombre water droplets on the back of this paper. So to help get things centered, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put my green pieces, or excuse me, my brown pieces in place, my corner pieces. And that's actually going to help me get my other pieces positioned in. I can come in about 3/8 of an inch, not quite a 1/2 inch in, all the way around. And then I'll be able to layer. If you want to double check your sizing, I'll be able to put my leaf ring in there. But I am gonna put my green, or excuse me, my brown corners in. I'm gonna use repositionable adhesive. I want to come in these thin tips. I want to make sure I get some adhesive there, because those are areas that are going to pull up real easy when I go to put a page protector on or put it in my top loading pages. You can get out, if you have your T-square ruler and you want to use that to help you line this up. Like I said, I'm coming in about 3/8 of an inch from each side. Three-eighths of an inch from each side is about the spacing that should give you still plenty of room to put that green autumn leaf ring in. The tips of the maple leaves will touch the brown. I think if we had been able to punch it with the red blade, we would have had a little bit more space, but the green blade works so much better. I tried it with the red blade and it it's a little too tight. The way the autumn, the way the leaves are in that cut pattern are just take up a little more space than some of the other. I'm going to rotate this. One last piece to put on. I'm going to try something a little bit different. I am actually, as I'm recording this, I'm hopefully going to be able to come back in and do some screen grabs for the actual handout. So as I'm filming it, that's why you've seen a few times where I pulled my hands completely away. That will allow me to get some of those screen grabs to show pieces in place. So there you'll see how that's going to look. So I can go ahead and I'm going to put some adhesive down on my repositionable adhesive on my leaf ring. And then see about getting this put into place. I find in general, if I keep a gentle touch, I don't push anything down, normally it will let me slide and make little adjustments. I think there I'm actually pretty good. One thing you may want to do with this, depending on your desired, how much contrast you have, In person, I feel like this does look pretty good. The contrast between the orange and the green is pretty good. I know on screen you're having a harder time picking out the details of the leaves. I debated going ahead with my pen and trying to go around it. I don't think I would ink the edges. I think that might be a little too a little more elaborate than I would care to do just based on my style of scrapbooking. So for the most part, I'm leaving this just as it is. I think in person, it looks fantastic, but you may want to add the additional detail if you want to do, I don't know if you'd want to ink the outside edges, but maybe you want to do a thin line all the way around those leaves to give additional detail. The next part of this is, of course, adding our center portion. So what I'm going to do here is just use some regular adhesive. Got to stay out of the middle because I cut away the middle, but I certainly can use plenty of adhesive there. And I am going to put this on with my corners like such. Rather, I mean, I could go, you can go in like this if you want. I want them to be the other direction. So you have some flexibility of design. Looks pretty good. Push everything into place. And there we have our base layout. So now I'm going to come back over here to my sample to show you here what I've got. I punched some leaves out of pieces. I had some scrap. I was able to do a the dark brown here because I had scrap of it left over from another project. You could just use a dark brown cardstock if you want. You've got some pieces left over of the green. If you want to use this center piece, you could cut your leaves out of this. We've got the orange scrap here to go with. So your scraps that you're going to have to be able to work with, you can see if you want to punch that leaf detail. I used a laser cut embellishment there, a title. These are, with the bronze shimmer mats, are 4x5. And then to represent photos, or if you wanted to double mat, I'm using Autumn Hay Shimmer, which is 3 3/4 wide by 4 3/4 tall. So the bronze shimmer mat is 4x5, 4 wide, 5 tall, and then 1/4 inch smaller for the Autumn Hay mats. So that's the layout. I hope you guys have a chance to put it together. Do it in other themes. Anything that you can go with the ring around. You certainly could just piece in some punched items that are, if you don't have a leaf punch that you want to go in a circle with, you could just use some spring leaf and just kind of make your own ring around the outside if you want. But give this technique a try. I thought it was kind of fun, something a little bit different, more of a signature page or a statement page, a title page, something a little bit more elaborate. You can, of course, make a complementary layout over to the side that would bring in all these colors to the another page if you needed to have more photos in your 2-page layout. So thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing what